Alexander Volkanovski has made quite a name for himself in the UFC. Some of you may say that he's been doing it at a slow and steady pace, but what matters is that many people out there love him for his offense and defense style. But what do you really know about him? Today we'll be looking at Alexander's life, family, and how he spends all his money. Starting with Alexander's net worth. Volkanovski's net worth is reportedly estimated to be $3 million. Volkanovski's UFC octagon successes account for the bulk of his fortune. Additionally, the many sponsorship agreements that the featherweight champion participates in account for a significant portion of his income. The base pay for Alexander Volkanovski's third match versus Max Holloway at UFC 276 was $1 million. In addition, he received a bonus of $20,000, sponsorships worth $42,000, and a PPV payment of $200,000 for a total income of $1,262,000. But let's take a deeper look at his salary. Volk's earnings had changed throughout his career in the Ultimate Fighting Championship, rising from a basic wage of around $110,000 per fight in 2019 to over $1 million when he faced Max Holloway at UFC 276 in February 2022. Plus, he's anticipated to have made roughly $5,801,833 in his professional MMA career as of this writing, and he will probably make considerably more in the future. Volk reportedly earned $1,712,000 at UFC 273 for his victory over Chan Sung Jung in the main event, which included $500,000 in base pay, $500,000 in win bonuses, $600,000 from the pay-per-view, $70,000 in performance bonuses, and $42,000 in sponsorship. This is the biggest total payout of his career to date, according to MMA Salaries. The fighter reportedly also received $20,000 in cryptocurrency. Khamzat Chimaev and Peter Yan each received $30,000 worth of cryptocurrency in this first fan voting for their fan bonus of the night. Next, here's how he spends training. To assure the ideal preparation for his fight with Brazilian veteran Jose Aldo in Rio de Janeiro, Australian UFC fighter Alex Volkanovski spent more than $20,000, or around a third of his average fight fee. Volkanovski, who was previously living with his mother and worked as a concreter, spent a lot of money on his preparation for the UFC 237 bout, which included 2 visits to Auckland's renowned City Kickboxing Gym. In addition, the Wollongong featherweight has hired an American nutritionist to source and prepare his meals while he is still in Brazil. Frank Hickman, a well-known Tiger Muay Thai wrestling teacher, has traveled to Australia to work with the fighter. When talking about it, the star added that he knows he's spent a lot of money and doesn't regret it because he wants everything to go perfectly, and for that, he needs to have the best preparation. Considering Aldo is a legend, facing a man like him is difficult, so it made sense for Alexander to dish out so much money to be confident when he goes into that ring. Following up, his cars and house. Volkanovski purchased a brand new $1.2 million house after winning the UFC championship the previous year. After sacrificing for many years, it was a prize for him and his family. Volkanovski is associated with Movember, a non-profit group that seeks to increase public understanding of and financial support for issues relating to men's health such as testicular cancer, prostate cancer, and suicide. The Australian featherweight champion lives in an opulent house in Wollongong, New South Wales. Volkanovski's everyday car is a Mazda CX-5. He has also secured 2 child seats in the rear to protect his kids. He's too much of a family man to spend big bucks on fancy cars, and it's totally wholesome. But Volkanovski enjoys the thrill of speed and has driven racing vehicles, besides owning a $30,000 GMC Terrain for personal use. Moving on, his family. Alex Volkanovski circles his trainer in the Wollongong gym while violently hurling his elbows and knees. But he's an entirely different person outside the octagon. Alex is well known for his politeness and humility in a sport based on trash talking and hulking confidence. He just so happens to be a fantastic fighter. Alex, a loving father to his 2 daughters, Ariana, 4, and Arlie, 2, sat down with us to share his thoughts on juggling parenting with succeeding in one of the world's most difficult professions. He even had the word family tattooed on his body. He said he got it early, even before he had children. Why? Because Alex really believes in the idea of a loving family. He always wanted one of his own. The man also said he always saw himself having 4 kids, even as a small child. However, he said that now that he has 2 daughters, he is debating whether or not to try for another. Alexander Volkanovski explained the inspiration for creating this children's book, saying, "A lot of parents will come up to me and say, 'My kid looks up to you. This book is something I can be proud of and is what I'm all all about. If I can give back to kids, it means a lot to me. Not to forget, let's talk about his wife. The champion at featherweight in the UFC is wed to Emma Volkanovski. The Volkanovskis have two daughters, Airly and Ariana. Emma and Volkanovski were wed in 2015, as we mentioned earlier. Emma Volkanovski is a fitness enthusiast who graduated from the University of Sydney with a BSc in psychology. Emma comes from a humble family and has three sisters. Emma hails from a low-income family, but she has progressed a lot. She was raised in Sydney, Australia. John Harris, her father, and Rose Harris, her mother, are both farmers. She also had a pleasant upbringing with her younger sisters, Jessica and Carmela Harris. They were all students at Cheltenham Girls High. His social media posts clearly show Volkanovski works hard to be a decent spouse and parent. Besides being a boxer, Alexander Volkanovski enjoys cooking and regularly shares recipes for many delectable dishes. Despite the hectic schedule of a UFC champion, he also makes sure to spend time with his family. Volkanovski even wrote a children's book to instill discipline, morality, and a work ethic in young readers. Volkanovski has had quite the journey from rugby player to UFC champion, and he wants to share it with the younger generation that looks up to him. Before deciding to marry and have a family, Alex and Emma dated for quite a long time. Volkanovski has often said that his wife and kids are his biggest motivators to succeed. What's more, the man has some pretty crazy records. Volkanovski received wrestling instruction while still a youngster. When he began his MMA training at the age of 22, this was helpful to him. At 23, he faced Gerhard Voigt in his MMA debut at Revolution Promotions. The Australian Fighting Championship was his next stop. In 2016, he finally made his UFC debut after seeing enormous success at AFC. He fought Yusuke Kasuya in his first match in the Ultimate Fighting Championship, which he won by knockout. He eventually had the opportunity to defend his championship against former champion Max Holloway after winning many battles. Holloway was expected to win the bout going into it, but Alexander prevailed through the unanimous decision and won the UFC Featherweight Championship. At UFC 251, they square off once again in a rematch. The battle came to a contentious conclusion. Although many observers disagreed, the judges ruled in Alexander's favor. He was declared the winner. Volkanovski is one of the most successful fighters, having received recognition for everything from year-end honors to championship victories. Volkanovski, who is still at the peak of his career, is certain to add to the list of honors and accomplishments on his already excellent resume. The ultimate accomplishment for any fighter would be induction into the UFC Hall of Fame, which is one step closer with each championship defense. Not to mention endorsements and businesses. Athletican and Sportsbet support Volk. Athletican is a brand of sneakers that is only available online and produced in very small quantities. Although Volk's specific earnings from the sponsorship are unknown, he joins a distinguished group of competitors who have previously worked with the company, including Francis Ngannou, Michelle Watterson, Paige Van Zandt, and TJ Dillashaw. The amount of money that Sportsbet the Great makes from the business is not yet known to the public, despite the fact that he is another of Sportsbet's celebrity endorsers. Volkanovski has several business activities apart from his Octagon career and his sponsorship contracts. The Australian boxer sells merchandise on Cameo and directly via his website. The 145-pound superstar is associated with Engage Clothing and sells merchandise via CMBT. Alexander is an accomplished boxer who also loves to cook. He regularly shares cooking instructions for some delectable dishes. Furthermore, despite having the hectic schedule of a UFC champion, he makes time for his family. He enjoys boxing, working out, video games, rugby, and football. His social media posts show that Volkanovski is trying to be a decent spouse and parent. The Australian wrestler uses social media to his advantage because that's where he likes to communicate with his fans and followers. He is often spotted posting images from his workouts, clips from his race, and a lot of other stuff. Finally, a look where he came from. Born and raised as a sports fan, Alexander Volkanovski has always had a passion for athletics. He got his start in Greco-Roman wrestling at a young age. Distinct from other styles of wrestling, this game was its own beast, with holds below the waist strictly prohibited. He was a national champion at the age of 12 in Greco-Roman wrestling. He was also a fan of UFC events when he was a teenager. He frequented Blockbuster to rent UFC VHS videos. After that, he joined me in buying UFC pay-per-views. Yet he stopped wrestling when he was 14 years old. He put his energy into rugby league football instead. On a rectangular field, the two teams of 13 players compete. The game's front row, where Alexander Volkanovski was most effective. Originally from a middle-class family, the Australian sports star is now one of the country's elite performers. The family business ran in the concrete business, and so did his dad. He is in charge of concrete mixing, compacting, and finishing for construction jobs. His mother managed the household meanwhile. That means it was a narrow margin of survival. That's a wrap for this video. So, what do you think of the UFC star's lifestyle? Let us know in the comments below. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this. See you in the next one.